Now I'd like to open this meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science.
I've learned an awful lot since coming to this church, and I am so grateful for every bit of it. Quite a while ago, I lost a stone from a ring. I was able to replace it, but that wasn't a good thing. And then it seemed whenever I would get a thought of something that I had, something would go wrong with it. I would need it repaired or replaced or whatever. So I spoke to a practitioner and I asked why this was happening. And the practitioner said, whenever you get a thought like that of something that you own, say, God gave me this and he maintains it. And to me, that was a wonderful lesson. Well, first of all, that was the last thing that happened like that. Anytime anything came, a thought of something that I own came, I would do that. And then it didn't break. Everything was fine because I put it back in God's hand. And it was a good lesson because I also learned that we don't be grateful and happy for the thing. We be grateful and happy for the giver of the thing, God. It originated in God. We thank Him. We recognize that He gave it to us, and that keeps it safe, keeps us safe, keeps everything safe. It completes the circle. I am so very grateful for all the lessons that I've learned here and that I'm still learning, and very grateful for practitioner help. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am so grateful tonight for God's constant guidance. All the lessons I have learned here have reinforced how important it is to do all things in God's time. Even doing my taxes this year, I followed this same process. I prayed that God would let me know the right time and refused to worry about it. I simply did my daily work, and if I thought of doing the taxes at all, I stopped and knew that God is watching over me and would let me know when it was right to take care of it. The other night, it became apparent it was the right time, and within what felt like 10 minutes, it was done and submitted. I'm so grateful to God for consistently proving it is not coincidence that everything works out for the best when I am seeking His will. I'm quite sure I would never have had the confidence or faith to work in this way without being here at the church with daily practitioner support and learning these lessons that Christian Science is teaching me. Thank you.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Tonight I wish to give a great joyful gratitude to all of Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent, and especially to our practitioners who tenderly pray for us during the day and night. Because of their devotion to and understanding of Mary Baker Eddy, Christ's love, and God's all-power, we and mankind are protected and healed moment by moment. I myself have been protected and healed just recently. I received 2 physical healings, but the biggest healing was of mental anguish and the peace of God. And for me, this was the peace of God, which passeth all understanding. My cup runneth over. Thank you.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. One night, after many years of enduring the most heinous acts of evil and being plagued by nightmares, I became so fed up with this life filled with torment that I got a gun and laid on my bed. Every emotion was stirred up inside of me. My thoughts bounced around from anger to sorrow, from I don't care anymore, to grieving for those I would leave behind. I don't know how long I laid there, crying and reaching out to God for help, and fighting back at the voice of my dad telling me to pull the trigger, that I was garbage, and there was no one would care if I died. I could not live this way anymore. I wanted to be kind and loving and happy and give joy to others. How could I be all those things when I was hurting so badly? I wanted the pain to end. Where was God? I was begging him to stop the noise in my head, but it didn't stop. Somehow I managed to pray our Father's prayer. Overwhelmed with the fear of the unknown, I embraced the thought that it had to be better than this. I said aloud, "Forgive me," and gently squeezed my thumb against the trigger. Just then the entire house shook violently. The windows rattled and the bed vibrated. Then in a moment it all stopped. All of it. The noise, the fear, the torment and anguish, it all stopped. I lay there frozen without a single thought of my own. The only sound I could hear was the sound of my heart loudly beating its way out of my chest. With tears running down my face, I could not stop myself from yelling out in desperation, "Thank you." I lay there just listening to the sound of my heart beating and eventually drifted off to peaceful sleep. The next day I made some phone calls and found a therapist to work with. For the first time I had someone to talk to about the events I endured. It was the food that sustained me for a while, but the nightmares continued and eventually I forgot how God had saved me that night. Therapy was never adequate enough to help me to understand my purpose for living or to answer my questions about God. I just wanted to know the truth. Many times I returned to my suffering. After many years of therapy, with the help of a friend, I reached out to a Christian Science practitioner and have now found my answers in the true bread of life. I have been so completely healed from the mental and physical torment of the abuse I endured that the only memories I have of the past are those in which I now see God actively watching over me. God has answered my prayer and restored me to life. I now rejoice in a life filled with purpose, the good, enduring, and the true. I'm learning the truth and discovering a courage I never knew I had, the courage to live. I cannot express deeply enough the gratitude and love I feel in my heart and in my soul for our Father, Mother, God, for Mary Baker Eddy, and for my practitioner. If I only have but one message to give, it would be this: never give up. Seek God. Obey God. Persist in understanding your relationship with the Creator of life. Allow Him to fulfill His purpose in you. It will bring a true and everlasting joy, the abundant life He desires for you. And from the Bible, Psalm 16:10, He will never leave your soul in hell. And Psalm 32:24, be of good courage. He shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the beautiful readings this evening. Tonight I would like to express my gratitude to God and to Mrs. Eddy and the Plainfield Church for being there for those of us in great need. As in Romans it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. That is one of the most amazing things that has been going on since I've joined Plainfield and have been attending all the different activities and participating in the readings and talking with the practitioner at Plainfield. I used to be just batted about this world with every thought blown about, easily disturbed, or would just react to almost anything that would come my way. But slowly, with the patience of the practitioner, I am learning to put on my spiritual armor, and I realize I'm no longer a victim to all these thoughts that come storming through, that I can stand up to them. I'm finding great peace. I'm learning to love in a more spiritual, deeper level and forgive, and seeing sorrow healed, replaced with a joy that I never had before. I would like to end with one of the things that the practitioner has encouraged me to unfold daily. It's the definition of angels. God's thoughts passing to man, spiritual intuitions pure and perfect, the inspiration of goodness, purity, and immortality, counteracting all evil, sensuality, and mortality. And this has been just a wonderful, wonderful thing for me to hold to and use every time I have a thought that I do not welcome anymore, and replace it with the good thoughts that God is giving to us constantly. Thank you so much, everybody. Good evening.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I was thinking about what a great privilege we have here in our church to be able to study and learn how to live our life, because this is what this religion is teaching us. Christian Science, or Christianity, if you want to be more inclusive. I'm so grateful. And today I was pondering about this thought, about being a Christian or a Christian Scientist. All I have learned and what this religion have taught me, how to live a very good life, a very healthy life, maintain a very healthy relationship with God. But this question keep coming to me, that does God love me more than he loves people who are not Christians? Does God love Christians more than he loves Muslims, Hindus, Judaist, or whatever religion somebody may be having over there? And the answer came back to me, no. God loves all of us equally. All this religion that people have is what is shown to them. And we are lucky to have what we have here. But it doesn't change who God is to all his children. Our religion can make us better, maintain a good relationship with God, and live a very happy life. Thinking about it gave me more peace, and I felt more confident, and it opened my heart more to people who are not sharing the same understanding that I have. It took away the fear that harm can come from anybody, or hatred can come from anybody that can affect me. Because no child of God, it doesn't matter what religion you practice, has the power to harm another child of God. I'm so grateful that I'm here. I'm so grateful for what I'm learning here. I'm most grateful to God.
Thank you.
I like to share on March story. There was wonderful article in us calendar. True wisdom is to seek nothing but what God gives, to hear no other voice than His, to have no ambition but to learn and to do His will. This means to me a lot because I'm new in Christian Science, and to me, like, bring more closer, improve my spirit to God. Thank you.
Thank you.
All my years before coming to this church, I was plagued with terrible headaches. I used to think it was inherited, not realizing it was actually fear triggered by being around people or being put into new situations. I needed to get out of myself and to trust God. Finally learned about God here, how wonderful He is, and He has only good for me. The headaches ended with all this learning, which I'm so grateful for. And I'm also so grateful for the practitioner help and for being in this church with this loving, wonderful God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Lauren in California, and I wish to share some testimonies. I have so many things to be grateful for that I'll just have to name them and not get into the details. First of all, I did work with a Plainfield practitioner a couple of weeks ago. I had my car in for service, routine service, and the horn wasn't working, and the car dealer said that it would cost $1,500 to fix the horn, and including a reassembly of the airbag, etc. So I just couldn't accept that, and I called one of the Plainfield practitioners, and was after about a week of going around without a horn and having just a handheld noisemaker when I'm driving, I did find, through prayer, a place that did fix the horn for about $200 and just basically replaced a wire. That did come after hearing a testimony during a service a few weeks ago about blessing things that we have and being grateful for them. And this is really a manifestation because, saving, about $1,300 was truly a manifestation. And then the other thing was I cut my finger recently, and I prayed, and it was bleeding profusely. I don't want to get into a symptom picture story, but I just found that instead of looking at the evidence and turning to God and seeing God as the source, I was healed very quickly and didn't even need to call anyone, practitioner. And then a more recent one was the other day. My foot was very much aching, and the initial thought, because I was not raised in Christian Science, was, let's call the doctor. And then an angel thought came, well, why don't you talk to Dr. God? And I did turn to Dr. God, and the thought that came to me that mind was the source of all movement. And that's from Mary Baker Eddy's Science and Health. And within a few hours, it was back to normal on my foot for the time. So again, I'm very grateful, and thank you very much for listening to my testimony and for being here to support spiritual growth. Thanks.
Thank you.
One of the things that has meant a great deal to me that I've learned in Christian Science after coming to Plainfield is that God has a much better plan or mission for each one of us than we could ever come up with on our own. I know for many years I was convinced that you had to have a certain kind of job to be happy, that some jobs were better than others, or that you needed to be able to acquire certain things in order to be happy. And whenever I was driven that way, I was most miserable. And it was the Christian Science that was taught by a practitioner in this church that showed me that God alone has the purpose for us to live. I also thought that it was important to have people approve of me. And that's a real trap, because seeking people's approval is the sure road to hell. Certainly not happiness or satisfaction in any way. And this idea of accomplishing things or acquiring things, even when I did acquire the things some of the things I thought I wanted. I was happy for no more than about 2 minutes. And Christian Science has taught me that the only approval that is worth anything is God's approval. And that God knows better than anyone what is right for me or for anyone else. And that means giving of ourselves and doing for others and doing it with a smile, willingly, not grousing. And I can be satisfied with that. And that's really all that I or anybody needs. And since learning this, I have become healthier and more stable and satisfied with doing what God wants me to do and not worrying about what anybody else thinks. And this is a great source of satisfaction. I'm grateful to have learned that in this church. I'm grateful to Mary Baker Eddy for giving us the science that shows us where our heart really needs to be. So good to be here tonight.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for the protecting power of Christian Science. Tonight driving over, it was raining, and I just had a weird feeling. And as we spoke about at the round table recently, this is your spiritual sense, God speaking to me. And I was just, okay, God, what do I need to know? And someone crossed the street all dressed in black. And I didn't have to slam on my brakes or anything because I was already alerted of the need. And I just said, thank you, God, for your protection for this person and myself, because I never want to harm any of God's ideas. And I just want to say how grateful I am for the round tables. They just teach us so much, give us things to work with, and to really practice in our daily life. And I am just so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful for the healing I have last week. I came here on Wednesday night for the service. Before that, I have my right legs is painful. I can put it on the floor. Every day I try to go walk and come back and lay down. And since I came on Wednesday night and tonight, I feel no pain, nothing in my legs. I'm very grateful for that, and thank you.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
I just want to express my gratitude for all that I've been learning at Plainfield in the last couple of years, for my practitioner's help, and learning so many ways to make life work so much better. And one of the things that's made a real impression on me is the need that I've learned to stand for the truth and not to waver. And in a small way, this has occurred to me recently. In a problem that I had for the first couple of years I was here, I would get a cold in the winter, and it would go on and on and on, even though I thought I was praying correctly. And so I finally decided, well, you're not really studying enough. And I looked again at the article my practitioner had given me called I've Got Cold. And I realized I needed to just realize to know what is suggested in this article. I have not got cold. And differently from the other years, this past year I said, every time the symptom came to me, I said, I have not got cold. And as I did that, it never developed. And this happened again this year, the same thing. And so I feel so freed in this small way by this wonderful truth that Mrs. Eddy has given us. And I'm so grateful to Mrs. Eddy for Science and Health. I'm so grateful for the Plainfield Church and my practitioner, all the learning that goes on here all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The other day I picked up Science and Health and started reading. And I came across the statement where it says in there that you cannot conceal the ingratitude of barren lives. And I had to stop there and thank God, because there was a time when my life was definitely very barren, and ingratitude was definitely quite a prominent feature in my lifestyle, although at the time I didn't even know it. And I had a chance to talk to a practitioner from this church about that very thing, and about the fact that my life seems to be like I could really use a lot more. And the practitioner reminded me of when Jesus, before he fed the multitude, he gave thanks. And then I was given the instruction, how much thanks do you give for God? And how much gratitude do you express, silently or outwardly? And it was definitely something that I needed to do. And at another time, the practitioner told me, I want you to write a gratitude list. Think of all the things you're grateful for and write them down. Oh boy, I really had to face this thing when I got that assignment. But I'm so glad I did. For one thing, it showed me how much negativity was really bouncing around in my head. And this could unnecessarily, and it was the cause of a lot of harm. And its remedy was to be more grateful for God. And that gratitude is a normal and natural thing. And since then, my life had improved quite a bit. Got to know God a lot better. Felt that he was much more closer. Plus gave me a weapon to work with when the negativity times to come in. That gratitude can reverse that negativity and open the door for opportunities for good. I'm grateful to learn this lesson. I still have to watch it very carefully, but every time I have an opportunity where I know that I need to be more grateful, I'm grateful for that opportunity, because the outcome is always good. Thank you, God, and thank you, Christian Science. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to give gratitude for one of the things that have come out of finding God and finding myself. And it is never to panic. Before Christian Science and, of course, the teachings through which I understood God more here, error would just have to show anything and I buckled down. If it was pain and headache, I buckled down. If it was a suggestion of I don't have, I just went down. Everything just pushed me to the corner, and I felt so tortured by fear and anxiety. And I'm so grateful that through many trials, I now know what reigns, who reigns. It is God, omnipresent, always present wherever I am. And recently I had the experience that proved that again. I was to record for our service, and very close to the time, I turned on my computer, and the online light on the modem says no, it was completely out. The panic started, and I said, no, I know better now. God reigns, and he knows all. So I called the technician for my service providers. The first man that came very abruptly said a few things, disconnect this, and then he was off. somehow the line was cut off. And I kept praying to get the right person. The next lady that came, went through the whole process with me, disconnect and do it again and all that. I did all that, and it still wasn't working. So she said I had to take it to a store. But it didn't feel right. Now, right then, I said, well, they don't know, but I know who does, because I've learned better. I know better. God knows in every situation He has the answer. So I sat down for a minute, and the impulse came to go back to the computer and do all the wires as though I was going to take it to the store. But when I was doing it, I still didn't feel like I should. So I stopped again and prayed to know that right here, I know the answer is here. God can give me the answer. And something came to just reconnect all the wires again. And right away, it worked. It worked perfectly. I was able to do the whole recording with no problem at all. This may seem not so important, but to me, it means that in every situation, physical problem, whatever the suggestion is, whatever the claim is, whatever the challenge is, God is here and can answer, can redirect our ways, and He surely never fails. I am so grateful for all that I have learned through Christian Science, through this church, for the incredible resources that people have tirelessly taken the time to put up there. It's worth taking a good look at and using and taking it all into our heart. Thank you for everything, and thanks for the readings and some of the hymns.
Thank you.